Hello everyone. Brief introduction of myself to establish the credibility to make this video. I am Dr. Subham Sinha, medical graduate from NRSMC Kolkata, 2017 to 2023 batch, and I have secured year 1904 in NEET 2024. I had given the exam in shift 2, which was probably a bit harder than shift 1, and I have got 161 corrects out of 187 attempts in that exam, and that was my overall best attempt. So now this number of attempts that I did, that is 187, is considered a defensive approach, and generally everyone favors going much more aggressive and attempting maybe more than 195 to 200 questions. Now to be honest, I had also the similar mindset, but then seeing the difficulty level of the paper, I had to reset that in my mind and I had to go defensive, and indeed that came out as a very blessed decision. Now this video is to put up that mind map to help you get your best possible marks in the upcoming NEET exam. Now first things first, this video is for those aspirants whose number of corrects in the GTs are less than 130 or maybe in the 130 to 140 range, and even if in the mock GTs you are not getting more than 150 or 155 corrects, this video is for you. For the rest of you who are at better positions, simple advice would be turn off this video and go aggressive in the exam. But for those who are watching now, this video is of utmost important for you if you are targeting a good clinical seat. That is, if you are looking, I would say, for a below 3000 rank in NEET PG. Now let's dive into details. We will discuss this issue in a step-by-step manner. We will finalize how many you should attempt in every scenario possible. So first step. The first step is to understand that how many marks you have to get to secure a good rank. Now clearing one very simple yet important fact here, that your rank depends on your marks, not merely the number of correct responses, because everyone asks and wonder about throughout their preparation time that how much correct responses you are getting, but number of wrong attempts are equally important, at least in certain scenarios which we are going to discuss in some time. Anyhow, the answer is more than 600. That is your target score. And that comes from the simple statistics of the last year's rank list. One who scored 605, his or her all India rank was in the 2950 to 3000 range. So the paper was damn hard this time, and it is safe to say that in the coming exam also your target should be minimum of 600, so that you can get that below 3000 rank. Now we will see that practically to score 600, how many questions you have to attempt. You have to must attempt, otherwise you will be out of the race, because there are simple maths which will come into. Now see, you will understand it from this simple chart. Actually these are the number of attempts. These are the number of attempts, and the maximum wrong you can afford in that particular number of attempts is this, and this is the minimum number of corrects that you have to get among these. So I am clearing once again, it is the number of attempt, and in this number of attempt the minimum number of corrects you have to get is this, and the maximum number of wrong answers that you can afford is this, in this column wise manner. And I have this simple chart also here, so this also shows the same thing. Now you can see here that if you go below 186 attempts, for example say 180 attempts, the maximum number of wrong questions you can afford would be only 24. Now that's actually a very tough scenario, because you generally expect that on average you will get 30 or probably more than 30 wrong. So to afford that, your minimum attempt has to be 186. So now we have a feasible range of number of attempts, that is minimum 186 to maximum 200. Now if you are attempting 200 questions, you can afford of course a huge number of wrong, that is 40 wrong, and if 185 or 186, you can afford 28 wrong. So at this point you may think that, well, then attempting more is good actually, because you have the liberty of doing more wrong attempts. But there is a catch here, and which we will discuss next in the step 3. So up till now we have found that the score you have to target is minimum 600, and for that your minimum number of attempt is 186. Now in the step 3, here comes the real question, that is how many questions you will attempt in particular. Well, to be very frank, that's an exam hall decision. Depending on how difficult the paper is, how confident you are sitting next to the question paper in your desktop, how well you have prepared, it all depends on all those things. So let's find out. Now consider the best scenario, that the paper is easy, all the questions that have come are easy to you, the question answers are coming to you naturally, and you are confident that you will get more than 160 corrects. This is important. If you are confident, seeing the difficulty level of the paper, that you will get more than 160 corrects, which also means that in each section, in each slot, you are facing less than equal to 3 questions which you can't rule out even one option. Now this, what from which this comes is, it's a general idea that if you are going aggressive, you generally leave only those questions in which you cannot even rule out one options. There are 4 options of each questions in our exam, and if you can rule out even one option, then there is a higher chance that you will get the correct response. So it said that if you can't even rule out one option also, then you leave that question. Otherwise, if you can rule out that option A is not correct in this question, then you can take a guess among the B, C, D. Now if number of such questions are less than or equal to 3, you go all aggressive. You can also attempt all 200 or maybe 195, 196, how much it is there, you can attempt. Now that is a best scenario. But if the case is not so, and you are screwed up because the paper is difficult, the number of such difficult questions are more than 4 which you can't rule out even one option, and you are not confident that you will get more than 160 corrects in this paper, then the real challenge comes. And it's difficult because if you are going for an aggressive approach and attempting all 200, well, there are chances that you may get more than 160 corrects if most of your guesses goes right. But at this point you also have to consider the fact that in a tough paper, when you are panicking, you can't rule out options in majority of the questions, and every question actually demands time to think upon. Negative markings will also rise up to a much higher extent if you hurry up. You will also tend to do more number of silly mistakes then. So the idea would be to minimize your negative and maximize your positive responses, and thus maximizing your marks. And that's where your GT experiences come handy. It actually plays a major role in this scenario, and this is the main essence of this video. I am making this video to address this particular scenarios, this particular issue. Now generally you would expect that you will get 5 to 10 questions more correct in your actual exam than you have got it in your last GT, maybe in the mock GT, which you would probably give 20 to 30 days, or maybe in the last week before exam. Now if your last GT corrects were less than 155, now 155, this number is important because our number of attempts, if it's 200, then 160 is the minimum number that you have to do correct. But if you have not achieved that range, and in your last mock your number of corrects, that is your best mock, maybe I would say, your number of corrects were 155 or less than that, and that also means that you always had more than 30 or 40 wrong in each of your GTs, then my genuine advice would be restrict yourself to attempting less than 190 questions. So the range will be 185, or you may say 186 to 190. That would be the safe range for you then. Because in such a difficult situation, when you are under immense pressure, by attempting 200 your negatives will not increase. You can't think that. You can't think that all your wild guesses will be correct. And if majority of your guesses goes negative, it will majorly affect your rank, because all the congestion that happens in that 590 to 605 in that area, that is between in the 2000 to 5000 range, in this range there is so much congestion. You will get it in every rank list. Now, my genuine advice in such scenarios is to attempt less than 190 and leave the questions that seems somewhat more difficult or doubtful than the others. Give more time to understand and answer on questions which you know, which you probably know, and just don't make any silly mistake. You can't afford doing any silly mistake in such a difficult paper. Now, the reward of going somewhat defensive, that is 186 to 192 attempts. Here you can see in this table. The thing is that it allows you to get into the safe marks range even with less number of corrects, because that becomes the crucial point in difficult paper, right? It becomes a game of calculated risk then, that how you can maximize your marks. And if you can concentrate and cut down your negatives even while attempting less, your marks will shoot up. That's a very beautiful and important scenario, that if you are attempting less, say 190 to 186 in that range, and if in the paper is such that you can't actually do more than 158 corrects, and then if you are going less on your negatives, your marks increases highly. It's 600 to 604. That's a major jump. And this is actually my own scenario. I as I said, and there are 187 attempts and I got 161 corrects and 26 wrong, and my marks is this, and I got a rank of 1904. Now, the last scenario is that if you are puzzled with all this and you just can't take the risk of attempting less or attempting more, or what will be better, or you can't just think over it, or your GT graph is seesaw, that means your GT graph is inconsistent. The number of corrects and the number of wrongs does not go in relay with the number of attempts. Then my advice would be you should attempt all 200 questions and you should pray so that most of your guesses come out as correct. Now, the last question that remains is, as the paper is divided into slots in which you can't come back after stipulated time, and you can't really know what difficulty level of the questions are coming next, how to approach it, how many questions to attempt in each slot. Well, the answer is simple. How much difficult the paper be, you can't leave more than 15 questions, right? Because leaving 15 questions means you are attempting 185, and as I said, you can't afford attempting less than 185 or 186, whatever. Now, so in the first two slots, don't leave more than 3 questions per slot, or maybe more than 5 questions. So when at the end of two slots, you should not leave more than 5 questions. And if you do so, you are very much in the game. Then according to the difficulty level of the upcoming slots, you can go aggressive or you can go defensive, and you can play in the range of 186 to 195, how much you want to attempt. Now, once again, it's the marks that matters most, not the number of corrects. Don't bang your head upon number of corrects only. Negative markings do matter. Okay, all the best. Please feel free to reach me for any guidance on NEET PG. Would be more than happy to help. My Insta and Facebook handle will be there in description. Thank you.